Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Roddy Raban, and as always, we have a fascinating show for you. We're doing our recurrent plastic surgery in the news episode. That's right, we take current affairs. Thank God plastic surgery is constantly in the news, otherwise we'd have no segment, and there is no shortage of topics today. We love to dive in and talk about what's been trending, so to speak, and give our 2 cents regarding them. Maria, I'm excited to say that there's a bill. We were talking about this recently. We recorded, one of the biggest topics we talk about on a regular basis is the impact of social media just globally on our adolescents, on the adults, on the amount of anxiety and depression it's creating, all of the fallout of social media. Yes, it's a good tool, but like a gun, it can be used inappropriately. And I think there is a massive need for, control over the social media. And of course, there's a lot of money in it. And, leave it to France to come out with what I think is the first potential real law, whether or not how they're going to implement it or whatnot. But here it is. So France, which ironically, not generally a huge fan of the French government, came up with a law which is potentially going to be passed into existence, which is requiring social media influencers to state whether or not they are or aren't using any filters. And if they violate that, they will be banned, fined, and a whole lot of other things. And the second component to it is that they're not allowing them to do collabs for plastic surgery. So what does that mean is right now in America, I can, Susie Q, walk into Dr. John Smith's office. Oh my God, I'm here at Dr. John Smith's office. Oh my God, he did a boob job for me. Oh, Dr. John Smith's amazing. He's fantastic. You as the consumer, AKA the follower, doesn't know for shit if she did or didn't. She's happy she's not. She had a complication or not. And so she's endorsing him, but in exchange for services. So this is a sort of, you give me a free procedure and I'm going to go and put out a shout out for you with my 2 million, 7 million followers. And so now they're banning that in France. And the bottom line is that we need to start this process. So we must, in America, start the process of controlling the misinformation that's being exuded on social media. So what that means is, hey, I look like this and I did it naturally. And there's some young girl who's watching who's like 9 and she feels super depressed because she looks nothing like this other influencer. She's got no acne, she's perfect, etc. When all alive, it's a filter, it's some AI filter. So I'm really excited about this French law, whatnot, because I think it's starting the process, and which is a shame on America because we should always be in the forefront of pushing these things.
Yeah, no, I think we need it here in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, shit, we need it globally, but I'm just surprised that the U.S. hasn't, they dabbled and danced around this, but it's really straightforward. You can't go on there and, as a doctor, write a bunch of shit that isn't true. You can't go on there as a lawyer and write a bunch of shit that's not true. It's like, if these guys are making millions of dollars influencing individuals, hence the name, then they have a responsibility to influence them, not good or bad, I don't care, but accurately. I'm not going to tell you that if you want to influence people to be strippers, that's bad. I mean, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. But I'm talking about if you're giving them information, it should be accurate and truthful. So you can't say you look like X when you literally look like Y. It's a lie, and you make money off of it. It's a huge mistake. And I think the bill, what's good about this French bill is that it's just the beginning. I'm hoping it just snowballs and other countries take into effect, and before you know it, there's some type of regulation or control over social media.
Well, but I think also it's not just the doctors. I think it's these young influencers who are getting, what is it called, pro quo type of thing, where they get something in exchange for promoting this stuff.
Yeah, but that's what the whole bill is about. It's just not, the bill's not about doctors. This is not a doctor responsibility.
No, but you were saying this is doctors that are influencing.
No. I'm saying that this is a social media bill directed towards social media influencers who, in addition to lying about whatever they're promoting, aka the way they use in filters, they're also getting kickback from other doctors promoting them. And that's what this is all about. Obviously, the doctors should know better, but nevertheless, I think it's a very good bill. There was another, there's this Kim K lookalike gal. That's another topic that's super trending. Um, and
That came out this past week. It's been shocking everybody.
yeah, well, I mean, it's shocking everyone, but that's only because it's been popular, but it's not such a new concept. I mean, it's a horrific story of a young girl who, I guess she made it her, her claim to fame is she apparently obviously had a baseline that looked like Kim Kardashian, and then pursued further plastic surgery to enhance that appearance, and then made money and a living off of it on OnlyFans, and she's had millions of followers, etc. And, she died, and her family's been a little bit private, but apparently she died or allegedly died of some kind of plastic surgery, and they're saying something to the extent of homicide. So I don't know the details. All I know is this story is not new. And we're actually going to have another story like it in the second half. But basically the bottom line is that, plastic surgery, great, amazing, wonderful tool. But then when you push it and you keep doing it, and the moral of the story here is this is probably, I don't know, her 6th or 7th. You can see when you look at her that she's had multiple procedures done. And therefore, it's kind of like when you push the envelope, when you come to the very edge of something, when you do, remember when we talked about Jocelyn Cano, who had gone to Colombia was it, or Venezuela?
Colombia. Went to Colombia.
And she allegedly had plastic surgery, which we believe to be yet a 3rd or 4th BBL or whatnot, as she died there. So this, unfortunately, is a sad but true reality when you are this is your way of living, which is I'm a social media influencer and you make a living off of this. You find yourself on the slippery slope and you're doing more and more and more. And, you're not made out of Play-Doh. There is going to be a point in which you're going to have a bad outcome. And sadly and tragically, this happened to this young lady.
No, and those OnlyFans pages that they make money. They make good amount of money just posing and talking. And when I looked at her pictures, I mean, her breast looks so large that it looks like her skin is being pulled.
Yeah, well, so,
look at it.
Well, I mean, she was a thin gal, and she had obviously multiple breast augmentations, because you don't go to the size of breast augmentation that you had. That doesn't happen over a single breast aug. Those are you remove, you replace, you remove, you replace, and you incrementally increase. And you're absolutely right. For her frame, the breast implants are unarguably way too large. And yes, I mean, I think it was, my wife was telling me like Black China or something made millions of dollars on OnlyFans, which is just, it's on. It's like, I just can't for the life of me figure out what people are paying to, I don't understand.
I had never heard of Black China until Rob Kardashian, he married her, they had a baby, never heard of her. But this woman made tons of money. And now, ironically speaking, she's taking out all her fillers and all her surgeries, and now she's going back to basic. And
yeah, well, but that's a common trend, and you heard that from the Kardashians. And listen, I don't care. But the fact is, I do all these things, and then I make a ton of money, and all these people follow me, and then I get to the top of the mountain, and I'm like, just kidding. Now I don't want to be here anymore, and I reverse back down. But yet I made millions of dollars from this process. It's do as I say, don't do as I did. Right? So I don't know what to make of it. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about Sharon Osbourne. And then there was some guy that you had sent me on yet another tragic death from a guy in Korea. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with plastic surgery in the news, plastic surgery uncensored. All right, welcome back to the second half of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. Our topic today is plastic surgery in the news. So, Sharon Osbourne. So, Sharon Osbourne apparently came out and said, I'm done, kaput, finished, no more, no mas. Well, I don't know, how old is Sharon? Like in her late 70s?
I don't think late 70s, but I would say early 70s.
Anyway, she's obviously done a lot, and it's not like she's like a 20-year-old and decided to call it quits. Nonetheless, what pushed her over the top? She had a terrible facelift and a lower eyelid lift or something where she's saying her eyes are super asymmetric. And she just kind of got to the limit where she's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And I'm over it. And, you're going to see a recurring theme on today's show. It's all about too much. It's about when do I draw the line? Like, it's like every other thing. It's like this idea of eating to a glutton. Like, you have a slice of pizza, yummy, no problem. You have 2 slices, 3 slices, you eat a whole pizza, you're not going to feel good. So you have a procedure or two and you love it and you look good, and every decade you dabble. But if you have a ton of surgery, and then eventually you're obviously going to cross that line. I'm not suggesting that Sharon Osbourne had a ton of surgery. I'm just saying it doesn't surprise me that she got to a point, and her comment was, no more facelifts. I shouldn't have even done this last facelift. I don't know the premise, but it's not uncommon that a celebrity will show up at a doctor's office, say, hey, I think I want another facelift. They sure as hell don't need it. You're like, oh, my opportunity to operate on a celebrity. You are not going to tell them, or you ought to, and you don't, and then they have a shitty outcome. So I don't know what she looked like before she did this last facelift, but it sounds like she didn't think she really needed it.
She really did. I think she looked good. She started when she did this whole weight loss. She was chubby. She did, I don't know if she had a bariatric surgery, and then she had all this skin. So she had a leg lift, an arm lift.
Totally fine.
Tuck, everything. And then her face, her neck.
Right.
And she's been very open about it.
But that's no, listen, if you lose 70 pounds, 80 pounds, you will indeed absolutely need 4, 5, 6 surgeries, your thighs, your arms, your legs, your trunk, etc., if you'd like to get back to where you were before you gained the weight. No problem. If you do your facelift in your 50s and you do it again in your 70s, no problem. What we're referring to is not that. What we're referring to is that I didn't really need this, but I thought I did, so I did it again. So that's the theme here. And she did her lower eyelids. I think it's her lower eyelids. But she said something about her eyelids. And the thing is, eyelids are very unforgiving. Very unforgiving. They're not like breasts where you did them like 3 or 4 times. There's not much skin on your eyelids. So if you mess with your eyelids, they will make you pay. And her biggest complaint on her in the news is that she says that her eyes were like Quasimodo and they were imbalanced and they didn't match or whatever. And you know, eyes are the soul of a person. You can tell 100 miles away when celebrities' eyelids have gone wrong. So at any rate, point being, Sharon Osbourne, she's out, she's checked out, and she's not doing anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then there was this other story that just hit this week, which was a Canadian actor. It says here, a rookie actor, trying to catch his big break in South Korea, died from plastic surgery complications.
How old was he?
22.
Yeah, and how old was that young girl that was the Armenian girl who was the Kim K lookalike? She was under 30 as well, right?
Yeah, no, she was like 22 or 23 as well.
So what are we seeing? I mean, look at this. Yet another tragic. Young Canadian guy goes to Korea and wants to make it big in the Korean pop market, music, whatever. He then wants to look just like one of the K-pop guys. I have no idea who these people are, but I understand they're a pop group. Just like this other girl wanted to look like Kim Kardashian. He apparently had like 10, 12, something crazy surgeries, facial surgeries to rearrange
his eyes.
Well, what happened?
He destroyed his eyes. You look at it and he looks weird. He looks like a creature from outer space.
He looks weird because, as his manager or whoever stated, he was a Caucasian guy in a Korean world. And this is ironic because it's almost always the reverse. It's almost always everyone from other countries seeking out Western features, right? Asians trying to do double eyelid surgery to look more Caucasian. This is one of the very unique or rare cases where a Caucasian individual moved to Korea, wanted to make it big, and he stated that he was very insecure about his looks and that he wasn't getting business because he obviously didn't look Korean. And so he underwent multiple surgeries, 10, 12 facial surgeries in order to rearrange his face and make it more Asian. And sadly, during one of these last surgeries, it said something like he got an infection and then he died. Yet another tragic loss. And so, what's the story here? The moral of the story is plastic surgery equates death? No, that's not the moral of the story. Millions of people get plastic surgery safely and successfully. If you notice, the common theme is always some type of underlying mental health. Anytime you go out of your way to look like a Ken Barbie doll or a Kardashian or in this instance, a K-pop star, there is a significant underlying mental condition followed by multiple surgeries with no end in sight. And in many instances, the kicker or the straw that breaks a camel's back is you're in another country. So that's a recipe for a disaster. You have some underlying mental condition, you undergo multiple surgeries, and no surgeon puts the emergency brake on you, and then you travel to some foreign country to have it done, And then naturally, the end result often is something tragic, like in this instance. And
it probably could have been prevented if their parents saw the signs when they were younger.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he's a 20-some-odd-year-old grown adult. You're not going to be able to stop him at this point, but it's very unlikely. We had an episode, obviously, with an expert in adolescence, and we talked about this, about, once your kid is like 18, 19, 20, the horse is out of the barn. You can try to intervene, but chances are they're going to do whatever they're set on doing. The time to intervene is when they're 7 and 9 and 11, when they're still under your sort of protection and sphere of influence. And clearly this guy wasn't doing well. It's one thing to go to an Asian country and try to make it big. It's another to alter your entire face to look like a Korean pop star, right? That's not normal. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately, it's just one too many surgeries. And I hate that much of what we talk about at plastic surgery in the news or headliners are often these tragic deaths. But the purpose of the show is to talk about what's really happening. So, if you're going
to get the wool pulled over their eyes and think.
Yeah. I mean, plastic surgery, of course, like I said, is a fantastic tool in the right patient done correctly. But like a gun, like a knife, like a car, like any other thing that serves humanity can be mistakenly used. All right. Well, I think that wraps up a quick episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We wanted to just chat about what's trending, what's relevant, what you're hearing about, give you our 2 cents. As always, do us a favor, share the news. I always give you a little solicitation at the end. Download, share, subscribe, and send it to your friends and family. And lastly, go write something sweet and nice and kind. It makes everyone on the team feel appreciated and loved.
And we'll give you a special shout out when we do get.
Yeah, that's right. We even say who you are out there. All right, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. That's another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Roddy Raban.